Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Blue Room Lounge podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge.
Bam, 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 we're here.
Yes, well,
You're here.
You're here.
We were there.
We were.
You beautiful time travelers. You.
Right. Right now, I don't know. By the time you listen to this, one of us might have broken a leg.
Oh, no. Break a leg on stage. Speaking of on stage, Davey.
Uh-oh, what's on stage?
We got taquitos.
Taquitos?
Taquitos. Going to cook them up in the toaster oven.
Yes.
We got tickets for the Capitol Theater Presents Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes, with Brad Majors.
The original Brad Majors from the movie.
Yes, that dick.
Dick. Have you heard anything about this show?
No, but it looks like it's like gonna have act outs and it's gonna do the whole thing, except it's gonna be like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I think it's gonna be a little bit different from what my wife tells me. Okay. And she is the resident expert on Rocky Horror Picture Show. They're going to be showing the movie.
Yes.
And then having things act out on stage simultaneously.
Yeah, that's normally how it goes.
Oh, okay.
Because they'll show the movie, and then, like, certain scenes, people will jump up and act out the parts.
Okay.
Like lip sync to the movie, kind of.
Yeah, I haven't seen one like this.
Back in the day, I think TBS showed that version. It was like watching a play, but you were watching the movie while people were acting. Yeah, and TBS had that, and I think my mom recorded it.
Oh, okay.
Because we would watch that sometimes, and it would show like how you throw the popcorn or like the playing cards, and
yes,
when there's like the toast part, you're supposed to throw bread or something.
That sounds messy.
Yeah,
but I'm super down to throw stuff and I think I clean it up. What do I care? I guess
exactly, and that's how the movie got popular, anyways, by doing midnight screenings.
Yeah.
They did a real big push for that. Like, would travel around and get theaters to show it, I think.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. I don't know if we're going to check out the Circuit 21 again or not, but this will, at least we'll fulfill our obligation to the Halloween gods by seeing Rocky Horror live once.
It's still a tradition.
Yes.
And plus, like the old lady was even saying, like, how many times can you watch it? I know it's different. There's variations of it, but you know, maybe you need like a break, and this will be like a good break, and then next year jump back into the stage performance.
I did like how they were like revolving the characters.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting, and that at least gave it a little bit of something different each time.
Yeah, because it wasn't the same people, and like Frankfurter was always a different guy.
Yeah,
or person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Person for sure.
Yeah, I think the second time we saw it, I thought was probably the best.
Okay.
The last time wasn't too bad. It's just all those people from the other play came, and they were like kind of overkilling the audience part.
I would agree with that. And like the last time we saw it was so raunchy, I felt.
A little bit.
It was crazy.
Well, it even says like on their website, because I was looking at the speakeasy, and it's like, if you're uncomfortable with, and it gave like this whole list, it's like, this is not for you.
12-foot dildos. Their prop budget must have went crazy on that one.
Yeah.
Unless somebody brought it from home, then hopefully they steam
you never know. A couple of umbrellas.
Yeah. What are the horror movies this season, Davey? I know you've been posting them. What are some of your highlights from that? If you don't know, tell them a little bit about what you do for Halloween. For
the spooky season, October, I try to watch one horror movie every day for a month. Mm-hmm. Except this year, Death Stitch Jason, it did 61 days. So we started in September.
Dude, he's hardcore Halloween. That's really when you start.
Yeah, in September. We just do 61 days of horror. Yeah, but I do the 31 days and just a different movie. Last year I made a list, but I find myself deviating, so I'd rather just on the day pick a movie to watch.
Yeah, and you don't really just pick it off your shelf. You don't do a lot of streaming, but I know every once in a while you dip your toe.
I like to go to the library, which I did over the weekend, to get a couple of movies. And this year I'm really doing the what I can get for free, like on Tubi or
Tubi. I got a movie I want to watch on Tubi, actually.
Yeah. And the other one's like Pluto or something.
Pluto's a good one.
Yeah.
There's also like a Freevee.
Yeah, I couldn't get that one to work. I think you need the app or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was me and my wife is going out of town to see Mushroom Head. I don't know if you're familiar.
Illinois band,
I believe so.
Slipknot-ish.
Yeah, they think they paint their face.
Yeah.
It's one of her girlfriend's favorite bands, I think, or up there for her. But she's gonna be going to Minneapolis,
Minnesota,
I think. Or what's the big M in Wisconsin?
Milwaukee, Madison.
Madison. I think it's Madison.
Okay,
yes,
Madison's
yes.
pretty good.
Yeah. But we went up there one time and we stopped at this like kind of little cheesy tiki bar. They had some good drinks. The ambiance wasn't quite there, but it was a good time. And we just kind of stumbled into this movie. What was it called? The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai? Yeah. And we just like kind of stumbled in. There was no audio, but it had like a crazy cast, like John Lithgow. Who's the guy from Back to the Future?
Doc Brown?
Yeah, Doc Brown. Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd?
Christopher Lloyd, that's it. Yeah, I had remembered it last night. I completely forgot it again. And it looked so wild. And she was talking about going back up there, and I was like, I got to watch that movie. It's on Tubi.
Yeah?
So it's totally free. Going to check that out hopefully this weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, but back to just drop a couple of hot takes for your Halloween movies.
I've been watching, for some reason, a lot of gory ones.
Okay.
Because I started Brain Dead.
Okay.
But it's like Dead or Alive. I think there's two titles because it's what's the one next to New Zealand?
Okay.
Because it's actually now I'm drawing all the blanks. Peter Jackson directed that movie, the guy who did The Hobbit.
I got you on the hot seat. You're drawing blanks.
Yeah. And it's a New Zealand horror movie, and over there it was called Brain Dead, but for some reason in the States it's Dead or Alive.
Okay.
Something like that. Vice versa. I think it's Brain Dead because when the movie starts it says Brain Dead, but if you look it up it's Dead or Alive. And that's just like silly and gory. And then there's a whole lawnmower scene. It's like the big like pinnacle like set piece kind of scene.
All right.
And
dig it.
Yeah. And then Reanimator I watched.
Oh, that's a classic.
And then I watched
you were saying that's kind of like a story about grief?
No, that was which one? Phantasm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's like it's got a weird twist at the end, but the whole movie you're just kind of like, what is going on? Because there's not like a real plot. It's just this kid sees weird stuff at the graveyard, and so they go explore the graveyard, and then but then at the end there's a twist, and it's like, oh, so this whole thing is just about grief, maybe? Like, yeah. But Reanimator was more like a Frankenstein, like meets Evil Dead kind of thing.
And that's like the cover is like a scientist and he's got this like green syringe or something, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see that in my head now.
Yeah, and then Bride of Reanimator I watched, and that one has a lot of like boop boop boo doo, 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 like whimsical music going on. I'm like
really Danny Elfman.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is really whimsical for a gory movie, like with like guts and stuff flying all over.
My real only big horror movie for this season, and I'm going to try to do it. Hopefully I can get out there. But it's on Thursday night, Davenport Theater. It'll be past by now, by the time you're listening to it, good people. But Onyx Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls.
Onyx Fortuitous.
Choke me, Devil Daddy.
Yes.
He's that Arby's guy, is I think what people call him on the internets. And he had a Kickstarter, and I funded it. I felt like I should have seen the movie before it came out.
I was wondering, I'm like, did you get something for that?
I got a digital. I'm supposed to get a digital download of the movie to watch. And I wanted to go somewhere and do it, project it at the Raccoon Motel, or just maybe just get a bunch of people together and watch it. have not got it yet.
Yeah.
And he did like the Sundance and a lot of it. He makes it sound like it's a very like comedic horror movie, kind of like a Gremlins type situation.
Yeah.
He talks about like he likes Gremlins a lot and kind of more campy horror movies. So I am excited to see it. I'm going to try to go out and see it. It's like $12.50, which is pretty good for a movie, I feel like, nowadays.
Yeah, it just sucks because it's only one time.
Yeah. Well, it's 2 times.
Well, 2 times one day.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm going to try to go see it at 10. Wish me luck.
Yeah, good luck. I think my old lady works, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, man.
And as of right now, I looked at tickets. No sold tickets.
Yeah, well, unless they don't really advertise that kind of stuff.
Which they do a good job of having great movies there.
Yeah.
And then they don't advertise them except for like little flyers at the theater.
Yeah, because this one, and then I saw, speaking of Jason Death Stitch, he went and saw House of a Thousand Corpses in the theater, and I'm like, I didn't know that was playing in the theater.
Yeah, my wife would have wanted to go see that.
Yeah, that would have been a good.
Also, what the hell, Jason Death Stitch? You fucking leave us on the lurch here,
right? Didn't even bring it up. Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, which is like a week from when this comes out,
yes. roughly.
Shaggy. I did some research, and I found out nothing. No, the whole X-ray or candy thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Did we talk about that on a History of Halloween or something?
I brought it up, but you're like, I don't know if they do that or if it was just like an urban legend.
Yeah.
But I guess some like hospitals and urgent cares will do it, but you have to call ahead. Mm-hmm. And
there's like some guy like dying, and you're like, I got to get this candy checked.
Yeah, that's why they're like, they'll usually help you out if you call ahead because it really costs them $4 to run your candy through the X-ray. And some places were doing it for...
Or you could go to the airport, maybe.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, that's probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I should have done that. But I reached out to Genesis and Trinity, which is our two
Did you
local...
really?
Yeah, well, I sent them emails.
Yeah.
Because on their contact page, they never got back to me.
Fuck, dude, you're going to choke on a razor blade.
I know. You think they would be like, oh, whoever answers their PR stuff would be like, this is a fun question. It's not like... What if the green thing is growing off my arm? Should I come in and have it looked at?
And you'd think that at the very least they'd have a copy-paste answer. Because you'd imagine they'd be getting way more phone calls than emails.
Or something. But now it's, the age of the computer.
Yeah. You'd probably go on their website and they have one of those chat bots. Ask.
Maybe. But the contact us just had like, what's your name? What's your email? And then your comment or whatever.
Yeah.
And they never got back to me. I was sad.
Damn.
Because they even went out or like contacted like ORA.
Oh,
like
yeah.
The orthopedic places and some radiology group, and none of them got back to me.
Damn.
Yeah.
Fucking leaving you in the lurch. They want your children to die.
Right. So no definitive answer on that. I would say if you, for some reason, are suspicious, just call ahead.
Yeah. Also, don't eat the candy.
Yeah.
Just don't eat the candy.
Or, yeah, make sure you inspect it. Because I also saw a Vice article from 5 years ago that was saying how it's a waste of time because you can only see metal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if there's like cyanide in your candy, it's not going to detect it.
Don't go trick-or-treating around no cherry farms.
Cherry farms.
Cherry orchards, maybe?
Yep.
Do they grow on a bush or a tree?
They're trees.
Tree, okay. Tree-dwelling fruit.
Mm-hmm. Which is another thing I saw when I was coming in. On whatever street that is, there's a bunch of hedge apples.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, but they grow on a tree. Why are they called hedge apples?
Yeah, they don't grow on a hedge.
No.
We did get our final family camping trip in.
Yeah.
At our super secret campground that I'm not going to tell you about, Dave.
Scott County Park.
Loud Thunder.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. We got there at like 8 o'clock at night on Friday.
Yeah.
And as soon as we pull in and park, the rain stopped. And it was just great the whole time. Took a pod dog for her first camping trip.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Camping is great.
Yeah, especially when you just pull your bedroom behind you in the
yeah. Oh yeah. And then I have a camping trip with Justin X.
Yeah.
He goes down to Panther Creek in Illinois to go hunting, and he invited me along.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm not gonna kill nothing, but I'm gonna go and hang out and just be cold for a couple of days.
Yeah, take some pictures.
Yeah, take some pictures.
Well, when I was a hunter, it was just fun to be out there. Like,
yes, and that's what he's always preaching to me, and I was like, fuck it, you know what, I'll go.
Yeah, because I mean, out of however many years I hunted with my stepdad, maybe only shot at like 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Did you ever kill anything?
no, but I shot a guy in the face. Oh, actually, we did kill some ducks, but they were too close, and they just kind of exploded, and there was just like feathers. And I was looking around, I'm like, "Where are the ducks?" And my stepdad's like pointing to the feathers falling, like they're all right here.
You want to get into some good stuff, some candy apples and peeps?
Candy apples and peeps. Sure.
Unless you got some more jibber jabber to go on about.
No, no. Oh, it's Halloween, spooky season. Crybaby Bridge.
Oh, I forgot all about Crybaby Bridge.
So, according to the city of Monmouth, it's become too structurally unstable, so they put up a big road closed sign and then stacked a bunch of boulders so you can't even drive through.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
And we've probably talked about that on a previous episode.
Yeah.
You'll have to dig that up and post it on the Facebook group.
What, the Crybaby Bridge or?
Yeah, well, that, and then also the episode we talked about it on. That's your homework for today.
Okay, I'll have to figure out which one that is. Yeah.
And if you're listening to this podcast, go check out the Facebook group. We'll post some stuff on there. There was most recently a new Sasquatch sighting.
Yeah, it's in Colorado, I think.
Yeah, and the government deemed that it was, quote unquote, not a fake picture.
Well, they couldn't. It's like, we can't. What's that thing they say?
We
confirm
can't,
or deny.
Well, I think I thought they confirmed that it wasn't doctored.
Oh, yeah.
Which is still kind of like not a confirmation.
Yeah.
It
And
could still be a guy in a suit.
the thing that was weird about that one is it was like taken from a train.
Really?
Yeah. So unless somebody was just out there walking around in the middle of nowhere in a Sasquatch
Which
suit.
is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Committed to the bit.
Right. But it was kind of cool because, like,
Also, I think that's a good way to get shot.
yes, walk around in Sasquatch. Yeah, but it was kind of cool, like how he sat down and he was like camouflaged in the like whatever that is, that scrub brush,
which would make a lot of sense. I don't remember if I commented on our group or wherever I saw it, but I was like, so everybody knows Sasquatch is fuzzy, and this is too clear of a picture.
Yes. Yes. He's 4th dimensional, right?
Yeah, 4-dimensional.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He can't be seen clearly in our 3-dimensional existence.
Right, just every once in a while he phases in a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's
I got a question for you, Dave.
All right.
Do ghosts haunt spooky places, or are spooky places haunted because they have ghosts?
Well,
Or do ghosts haunt spooky places only, or are places only spooky because they're haunted by ghosts? What do you think about that? A little chicken egg situation.
I think it's the spooky because the ghosts are there.
Okay.
But the place itself would be spooky because it'd be like, oh, this is a haunted house or a cemetery or an old church or an insane asylum. You're like,
and I guess it's like you could have a horrendous murder in a really nice house, but then nobody wants to live there anymore, so it goes into disarray.
And it becomes the spooky house.
It becomes the spooky house. Windows broken, doorknobs falling off, and creaking ass hinges.
Yeah, so I think it's a little of both. Something spooky has to happen there, and then it becomes haunted.
Dash of this, touch of that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I don't know. I was thinking about that when we were doing today's episode.
Yeah.
On super spooky graveyards.
Super spooky. Do you know what the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard is?
A cemetery is full of cement, and a graveyard is in somebody's backyard.
close.
Oh, really? I guessed that.
Yeah. A graveyard is always connected to a church.
Oh, okay.
It's on,
It's
like-
a churchyard.
Yeah, it's
or
a
something.
churchyard. It's the
Okay.
graveyard in the church.
Okay.
In the cemetery, they can just put anywhere.
Oh, you just plop it down wherever you feel?
Yeah.
That seems a little flagrant to me, but okay.
Well, I mean,
Wherever you got land, especially if it's Indian burial ground or something.
exactly. All the ones that I looked at, they're like, oh, Indians were here first.
Because they were.
Yeah.
I come across the world's largest cemetery was in Wadi al-Salam, and that is in Najaf, Iraq. And there's more than 5 million people buried there.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah. Well, they are like,
One of the oldest civilizations,
yeah,
right?
it's like kind of cradle of civilization kind of thing.
Yeah, it was. Some of the first known burials are over 120,000 years old.
Damn.
For people who they were generally people were generally like cremated or left in caves, a lot of times mummified, or like sent out to sea, some sort of Viking burial.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people who were originally buried underground were like people who fucked up,
Yeah.
and so like, we're not going to give you the traditional burial of our people, we're going to put you in the dirt.
We're just going to stick you in the dirt.
Yeah. And then then people realized that those people were like, kept from scavenger predators, vultures and like coyotes and things, also protected from the weather, and then even protected, like your loved ones are protected from seeing your eyes melt out of your head, and your
Yeah.
skin will wither up. So they kind of realized that, oh, actually maybe this is kind of cool.
Yeah. We should just cover them up with some dirt.
And a lot of the first appearances of cemeteries I had heard were in North Africa and West Asia about 10,000 years ago, when they started like committing to putting people in ground. And a lot of them were like mound burials,
Yeah.
and not necessarily what you and like even the catacombs of like Rome and,
Yeah.
and the Greece type area. So they started to do that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Have you heard about the Tibetan air burial?
No, tell me about it, Dave.
That's where they have a person that comes, and I don't know if they chop you up,
Ooh.
but they put you on a big slab, and then all these vultures come and pick your bones clean, and then they like smash your bones up, so then they just blows away, and then there's nothing
That's
left of
kinda
you.
cool. Is that kind of something, and maybe this was kind of a movie thing, so I feel bad kind of saying it, but isn't that kind of something that they did with Native Americans as well?
I think,
And I would think it would be like there's some lands that are not conducive to burial,
yeah.
but I feel like I've heard that might be a movie thing.
Well, I think there were some. I couldn't tell you which tribe, but they would make
Yeah.
like a kind of like a bunk bed, and then put the dead on top of that instead of in the ground.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a sky burial, but also like in the desert, it's so dry and dry heat.
You
It's just kind of mummify. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, all the ways that people really have thought to bury their dead, as opposed to just being like, oh, we're Christians, so we got to bury our dead.
Right.
I don't know. Putting thought into stuff is kind of cool.
Putting thought into how to bury your dead.
Yeah. I did pick up a bunch of superstitions.
Ooh, like holding your breath while you drive out of the cemetery.
That was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And that's a little further down, and I got it just lumped with a couple of cool ones too. Generally in a graveyard, and so I think a lot of this is for a graveyard, so which would be attached to the church, like you said. The south side of the graveyard is the holiest. The north side is unlucky, and that's generally due to the lack of light in the northern hemisphere.
Okay.
For like, because it usually like leans away or something. I think it's got something to do with the tilt of the axis.
All right.
And it's usually the north side is unlucky, and it's got something to do with the sunlight. Generally considered like unhollow or unconsecrated, usually reserved for like criminals, suicide victims, people who were unbaptized or excommunicated from the church, and they often weren't given grave markers. So that area of the church was often used for like sports and outdoor activities.
Where you're just running on top of criminals and stuff.
Really showing them what for.
Yeah. Is that called like Potter's Ground or something like that?
Oh, it could be. That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk about like the first person and the last person to be buried in a graveyard. So what has been said in the past was the first person buried in a graveyard, their soul was always claimed by the devil. Oh. Which I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. But then the Germans were like, actually, we're going to bury a pig or a dog or a cow here first.
Oh, so their soul gets taken.
Yeah, it's a little ritual sacrifice, you know. And then the last body to be buried in a cemetery, which I ain't never heard of a cemetery being full up, but I'm sure it happens. And I guess it would be like the last person to be buried at a cemetery has the duty to watch over all the rest of the souls.
Yeah.
And so I guess technically your watch generally only lasts until the next body is buried, now that I'm saying it out loud. But then, you know, I guess if you're full up, then you have to do it for the rest of time.
Then you're just the caretaker now.
Yeah. That sounds like a ghost to me, but
yeah, that would be crazy.
And then there was a mort safe.
Mort safe?
Yeah. Did we do an episode talking about those bells?
Yeah.
This is kind of the opposite in that, you know, to stop the dead from coming back out of the ground.
Right.
And also to stop like grave robbers and stuff. It was like a cage or like a metal prison type
Oh, yeah,
door.
I've seen those.
Yeah, that's kind of cool sounding, huh?
It's called a what?
A
mort?
A mort safe.
Mort safe.
Like a mortician's safe?
Yeah, or like mortuary.
Yeah.
All the mort words.
Walking past an open grave is said to be able to cure toothaches, boils, and incontinence.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you're having trouble holding your pee-pee, just try to find an open grave site.
Yeah.
When you go into a graveyard or a cemetery or even where somebody has died, you should turn your pockets inside out so you don't carry home a little ghost in your pocket.
Oh. I should remember that one.
And then, while you, like you were saying earlier, I think the most common one, especially like kids riding a school bus or something, holding your breath while you pass a graveyard or within a graveyard. Breaths can wake a spirit, make a spirit jealous, and allow a spirit to enter your body. And also, whistling while in a graveyard will summon the devil.
Ooh.
Los Satanus. That's Latin for the devil.
For the devil. El devil.
El devil. I just thought those were kind of funny, especially the breath one.
Yeah, I always knew about that one, but it was just like, when you're driving by or something.
And then you find like a really long one, and you're like,
yeah, turn them purple. Yeah, and I always, I'm surprised this wasn't on there, but not stepping on the actual grave itself.
There were a couple like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't include them because I didn't think they were that fun.
No, because I mean, last time I was at a cemetery, we walked all over the graves.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
How are you going to find the ones in the back?
Right, and how are you supposed to read, especially some of the old ones?
Yeah. And this reminds me, I got to get out to my dad's parents' grave. I'm like the only one that visits them, so I like to go out there and clean it off. They got one of those plaques in the ground, so the grass kind of grows up around it.
Yeah. There's a cemetery in Pleasant Valley that's got a bunch of old graves, and every once in a while I go out there and sweep them off, maybe bring them some flowers, because I'm like, these people died in like 1845. Like, who's coming to visit them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some that you'll see like a new, fresh something, and it's like, well, those people still have like ancestors that visit them.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. But
I've taken my kid out to my grandparents' grave a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because that's the only reason I even knew where it was and what to do. My dad just took me out there every once in a while and clean it up.
Oh, yeah, because even like my grandparents in North Carolina, I've taken my daughter out there just to be like, this is where my grandparents are buried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, back now to the spooky stuff, Dave.
Now to the spooky stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have Bachelor Cemetery?
No.
No. This one is in Chicagoland.
Oh, okay.
Like in the suburbs of Chicago. And it's touted as the most haunted cemetery. But I also have another one that also carries that moniker.
Yeah.
So, but it was started in 1834. Pretty much, it's only an acre. It's not a very big cemetery. But once they changed the highway, they turned that land around it into a forest preserve.
Oh, okay.
So the only way to get to the cemetery is on a path, like a footpath.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And yeah, because the last person to be buried in there was 1965.
Still watching over those dead
Still
people.
watching over the cemetery. But since it's all secluded, it became a really good place for criminals.
Okay.
Satanists and teenagers. And there's a lagoon right next to it where supposedly during the Capone era is where they would dump their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's ever confirmed that one. And some guy did talk to some people in the know.
Okay.
And
Made men.
Yeah, and they said that actually if you put them through the processing plant for like the water, like waste processing, by the time they get through all the vats, they're pretty much gone.
Whoa.
The body's like disintegrated because of all the like bacterias and things they have to eat, all the waste that they're
all the
treating.
poopies and
stuff. And so they're like, highly doubt that they're in that lagoon, but there are sightings because the interstate that runs right by there. People have seen a two-headed monster crawl out of the lagoon and cross the road.
Damn. Why did the two-headed monster cross the road?
To get to the other side.
Correct.
All right.
to haunt on the other side.
Haunt the other side. Yeah, and there's also a story of a caretaker back in the day. Him and his horse drowned in the pond. And later on, people have seen the ghost of this guy and his horse hanging around the lagoon. And there's lots of vandalism. They said the vandalism was so bad that they actually exhumed the bodies and moved them somewhere else.
Holy smokes!
But I only heard that on one article that I was reading, and nothing else could like confirm that. But I think where it gets mixed up is there's so much vandalism that they stopped replacing the headstones. So a lot of it just looks open and barren because the families were like, no,
I can't afford all these tombstones.
Yeah, because I was reading the comments and they're like, every once a couple years, people like will come in from the forest preserve and set them all up and clean it all up and make it look nice. And then like a month later, they'll just come and be trashed. And they like to throw the headstones in the lagoon, I guess.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And any kind of pictures, they're all just on their side. But there's one grave that they haven't really fucked with. And it's got like this family in it. And one of them is like it says like infant daughter on it. And there's always toys and stuff that people leave behind. But there's a picture of a mourning lady, like a ghost that was sitting on one of these like pedestals that used to have a headstone on it. And they think that it's the mom of the baby, like looking for her long lost baby.
Okay.
Yeah. And then lots of orbs sightings.
Okay.
Sometimes there's like the monster and then devil dogs.
Oh, wow.
Had been spotted there, like black dogs with red eyes. And for some reason, a disappearing house.
What?
Yeah, like people will see a house in the distance or like on the other side of a fence. And then when they walk around the fence, the house is gone. Or they'll like walk towards the house and it doesn't get any closer. And then they'll finally just like lose it behind a tree or something. It sounds really weird. And anything that I've seen more about it is just people going there and hanging out.
Okay.
Because there's actually like also like a weird bunker in those woods that people go and mess with, like hang out at.
Okay. This sounds a lot like, I had to look it up to make sure you weren't talking about, because you never said what city that was in.
Chicago. It's in one of the suburbs.
Did you say the name of the cemetery?
It was the Bachelor Grove Cemetery.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because it's either called that because there was a family called like Betheler, and then so they think maybe they started the cemetery, and then it just morphed into Bachelor over the time.
Yeah.
Or they also think because of like when they were building the canal or something for shipping in Chicago, like the port.
Yeah.
A lot of immigrants who were just men died, and they just buried them there. So it was like the Bachelor's Cemetery.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think there's only like they only got like 80 people in there before it was kind of full.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it sounded a lot like one that I have put down here, the Greenwood Cemetery in Decatur, Illinois.
Yeah, that one also comes up as the most haunted cemetery.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, where the fuck's Decatur at? Is he talking about this one? And they said it's one of the most haunted places on Earth. It was originally used as a Native American sacred burial ground. Excuse me. Then the first Europeans migrated and settled in that area in 1820. And as more Europeans came, the town grew, and places to bury your dead got smaller, and they ended up chasing the Native Americans out and using their burial ground as this Greenwood Cemetery.
Yeah, because when the settlers came west back in the day, and you die of dysentery, they would just put you in the ground.
Yeah.
Wherever. But then as they started settling places, and at first they were like, oh, we're going to use the same like ground as you, and the Indians were okay with it for a little bit until more white people started coming. And then when the Black Hawk War broke out is when a lot of these people, they were either chasing the Indians out or they were just in conflict. And do you have the story about the moonshiners?
Yeah, the historian Roy V. Tiernius dubbed this, whatever you want to call this story, as the moonshiners and the Indians. Didn't age well.
No.
And it occurred in the late 1820s, where a group of European moonshiners chased a group of Native Americans away off their land. And so the Native Americans had gotten close to their still. The Europeans chased them up a hill to the burial grounds, and once there, moonshiners gunned them down and concealed their bodies in a shallow ravine in the side of the hill and covered them up with stones. And supposedly you can still see this from the southwest side of the cemetery.
Yeah.
Southwest side of the cemetery. Sounds like one of those things you say before.
Southwest side. Yeah.
So that was like partially where it began, where all the kind of the bad juju happened. And then, like you were saying in that last one in the Chicagoland area, by the 1950s, gangs, mobs, cultist activity, troubled youths were using this cemetery as kind of a meeting place and doing whatever nefarious activities they wanted to.
Yeah, because I didn't see how big that cemetery was, like acreage-wise. But it said it had a lot of rolling hills and valleys.
Yeah.
So it's got to be pretty big. And I don't know how big Decatur is, or Decanter. But a lot of the comments, like I was rolling through and like, getting the...
It's Decatur.
Yeah.
There's no N.
Oh, it's Decatur?
A decanter is something you keep water in, right?
Okay. I was just making sure. It's Decatur.
Yeah, give the people accurate information to Google.
Right. Yeah. But a lot of the comments were people saying they grew up there, and some people would be like, oh, I didn't even know these stories. And other people would be like, oh, no, we used to go and drink. He's like, yeah, one guy was like, I never saw any spirits, but a lot of beers got killed there.
A lot of beers got killed there. Oh, that's a good one. And it's pretty similar to the Bachelor Cemetery you were talking about before. There's a continuous story, and this is one of those stories I feel like could be like, I think you talked about like a widow's walk, what was that? Lover's Leap.
Lover's Leap.
Yeah, we kind of talked about there's like one of those all over the place.
Yeah, we talked about that with the Paranatural Boys.
Yeah. And there was also stories of a weeping woman at the Beckman Steps.
Yes.
There's 5 stone steps that lead up to Brackman steps. Brackman family burial site. Numerous reports have seen this woman with her head bowed, weeping on these steps, and she appears in the evening as the sun's going down, and she vanishes as the sun sets.
Yeah. And there's also one where the lady was going to get married and elope.
Yep, in the 1930s, a young couple was engaged to be married. In the 1930s, so you had the Prohibition.
Yeah.
The soon-to-be groom was distilling whiskey and selling it in the area. One summer night, the couple had planned to elope. It sounded like maybe the gal's family didn't care for her trying to marry a moonshiner.
Yeah, not a very good profession.
Yeah, and they planned to elope. The groom, the soon-to-be groom, was set to deliver a batch of whiskey, collect the money, and that's the money they were going to go use to get married. He never showed up because he was gunned down by a rival moonshiner. His body dumped in the Sangamon River, which is right next to, I believe, the cemetery. And after waiting all night, the bride was told that the body was discovered, and distraught, she threw herself into the same river and drowned.
Yeah.
Her parents decided to bury her in her wedding gown, and soon after that, stories began circulating of a young woman in a wedding gown weeping throughout the graveyard, searching for her lost love.
Yes. Spooky. There's morning chairs.
Morning chairs. You sit in them in the morning.
Well, when you're mourning.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and a lot of graveyards used to have these, like benches and things, or like stone like chairs.
Yeah.
For people to sit in while they're mourning. And a lot of cemeteries have taken them out because of vandalism. Mm-hmm. But at this
people were throwing them into ponds and
obviously, yeah, writing their satanic stuff on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's probably the truth.
Yeah, but at this Greenwood Cemetery, they had one, and it's called like the Devil's Chair, and like supposedly if you sit in it at midnight, the devil will show up and offer you a deal.
Yeah, whatever you want, you can have it for 7 years.
Yes,
and after 7 years, he comes and he takes your soul.
Yes, I will eat your soul. But
your soul is mine.
Yeah, one of the comments I read was that he didn't hear that it was the chair, but the woods around the cemetery are called Hell's Hollow.
Mm.
And supposedly there's a dirt road back there right on the property line. And if you're walking on that road at midnight, you can run into the devil and strike a deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Devil be everywhere trying to strike deals.
I know.
What's worth 7 years? Well, the rest of your life minus 7 years. The Greenwood Mausoleum is also something that has brought a lot of talk to this cemetery. It was built in 1908 and demolished in 1967. According to reports, the construction was pretty poor, and it ended up leaking a lot. By the 1940s, the mausoleum slipped into complete disrepair, and strange reports of voices had been coming from the mausoleum, as well as crying and screaming. By 1957, it was declared unsafe and closed. Families were asked to relocate their loved ones, and over 100 bodies were never claimed, and some were even not identified. Several of these bodies were buried in common graves, and I believe this was across the street.
Yeah.
So, and across the street where they buried these bodies in the common graves, there continued to be voices and screams, as well as phantom lights reported to be moving during the night.
Ooh. Yeah, you gotta watch out for those balls of light.
Is that an orb?
Orb,
or
yeah.
is that something different? Orb versus a phantom light, you think?
Well, there's like
like I think a phantom light is like a fog coming in, and you can kind of see the light kind of making a shape.
Oh, okay, I can see that. And then an orb's just an orb.
Yeah.
Or like, I think they call it fairy fire.
Oh, okay.
It's like some kind of stuff kind of can lead you into the woods.
Yeah,
and it's not really like an orb. It's just like a little wispy guy.
Yeah, like a wispy guy.
Like a will-o'-the-wisp or something.
We should do an episode in the future about maybe just a lot of this terminology and get it kind of more straightened out.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of future episodes, if you gotten this far, drop us a line. Tell us what you want us to cover. I know we always got some pretty good episodes. At least I think so. I'm the one that gets to do the research, which is a lot of fun, as well as Dave.
Yeah, I do research.
But we're always looking for new topics and stuff like that. And if nothing else, we'll add them to the list and get to them sometime. But
yeah, and usually those go a little more to the top of the list.
Yeah. And it's like, if you had something that was new now, maybe it'd get pushed for Halloween. But yeah, we're generally trying to get to the things that the people enjoy too.
Yeah, we're a podcast for the people.
For the people. Party people. Party people. I'm on one today, Dave.
I can tell. She has the soda pop or something?
Lack of, maybe. My brain is not functioning on caffeine
it's not
and sugar.
Caffeinated. You're like one of those people, like when you get tired, you get really hyper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one I got for this cemetery, this Greenwood Cemetery, if it hasn't been enough, is the Phantom Soldiers.
Oh.
So during the Civil War, troop trains on their way to a Confederate prison camp in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
They would stop in Decatur and drop off goods and stuff. One train stopped to unload a bunch of deceased bodies of soldiers, of Southern soldiers, who had succumbed to yellow fever on the way up to the prison. The soldiers were buried in a mass grave, and
pretty shallow too, if I remember.
Yeah, it did sound like that with some of the things that happened. And rumors were said that not all the soldiers were deceased. After they were buried,
I'm not dead.
I'm not dead.
You will be soon, though. I swear.
I'm feeling much better. And then, so a little while after the soldiers were all buried, and I believe after the war, there was a memorial built on this Confederate mass grave to commemorate Union Illinois soldiers. So it's a little insult to injury.
Yeah.
And then years after that, the Sangamon River, which is pretty predominant in this area apparently, this river flooded and washed away many of the Confederate remains. After the flood is when you started hearing a lot more stories of Confederate soldiers walking through the graveyard, potentially searching for their remains. One story was of a young boy who had claimed he saw a man standing atop one of the hills in the cemetery, waved him over. As the boy got closer, he claimed that the man was wearing tattered gray clothes with dark spots that appeared to be blood all over it. He said that the man was confused, not knowing where he was, and he was trying to get home. And before the boy could answer to the man, he vanished right before his eyes.
Oh, you gotta teach your kids not to talk to spirits or strangers.
Strange spirits. Only spirits you know, son.
Yes, don't talk to those weird ones. Have you heard about the Highgate Cemetery in London?
Ooh, I've been Highgate before.
Like, okay.
in London. Highgate Cemetery in London.
Yeah. As in North London, and it was built in 1839 and hosts 170 people, including Karl Marx, Douglas Adams, Charles Dickens, or just his wife, and George Michael.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's 37 acres.
Damn.
And
with like 100 people in it, 200 people in it.
Well, it's got like big mausoleums and stuff.
Oh,
and like
one giant mausoleum for like George Michael.
Yeah, but if you look up Highgate Cemetery, like it's been used for lots of movies and stuff, just because of like the architecture and like there's like statues and all sorts of like craziness, and yeah, big mausoleums that just hold like a family, and it used to be like a really posh place to get buried because during the Industrial Revolution, it was actually on a hill. So a lot of the pollution and stuff didn't get to it.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of rich people were buried there. That's why they'd have the bigger plots and like take up more acreage. But then from like between World War I and World War II, it kind of fell into disrepair because obviously England had a lot more stuff going on besides taking care of their cemeteries. And it became like a place for Satan worshipers and vandals and punk kids. And
which Satan worshipers, you'd think that a cemetery would be like almost like a sanctuary for God, but maybe that's part of it, where they're trying to fucking, stuff the nose of God.
Yeah, but I mean, you desecrate something dead, like
holy,
yeah. It's very satanic, and
it is super satanic.
Yeah, there was like a crying woman.
Oh
that
yeah,
had been seen. There was a faceless man that would just wander around, and people would be like, when he got closer, they tried to get a look at him. He wouldn't have a face. But in 1963 to like 1971, there was an apparition that was a tall, 7-foot tall black figure, like an all black, that would float through the cemetery.
That's spooky.
Yeah, and a lot of it would happen by the gate of the cemetery because it was public property, but they'd lock it up at night. But people would be walking by and see this figure, and one guy said he felt all his like life force or like energy being drained, and like he couldn't move, and he became really like lethargic.
Okay. But
then like a car came by, and this thing disappeared, and he like felt his energy come back into him, and so the British Psychic and Occult Society, by this David Farnett, decided to do an investigation on it, and because there was like a couple of these sightings, and one of the more famous one was a lady that was walking by, and this thing actually came out of the cemetery and was like on top of her.
Whoa! Because
this guy was driving and he saw the lady in the middle of the road and this dark figure, and as soon as his headlights hit it, it vanished, and he ran out and helped the lady. Like, what the hell's going on? And she's like told her story.
Ghosts.
Yeah, and so it like kind of grew in popularity.
Okay.
And so this British Psychic and Occult Society said they were going to do like a seance or like an exorcism.
Oh no.
Yeah, because they were going to like get inside of a circle of protection and then lure this entity into like a binding circle to like trap it like Ghostbusters.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Bitch.
But then so they were kind of on the TV, and then this guy Sean Manchester, who claims to be the bishop of the old Catholic Church, like before it was a Roman Catholic, like old Catholic Church, and vampire hunter.
Oh,
yeah, and he's
damn.
like, that's not an entity, that's this king of vampires.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so
you don't want to fuck with the king of vampires, man.
Right.
Unless you know your stuff.
Exactly. He knew his stuff. He's got plenty of pictures on the internet of him with his like bishop garb and a stake and like
garlic.
Yeah, and a cross. But they were gonna do this seance thing on Friday the 13th of March in 1970, and that was right around the time that the States, pretty much, well, like the Western world, was going through this whole satanic panic thing, where like the video nasties were coming out, and like D&D in the States was all being like, oh, the occult, and they're getting to our kids. And since this stuff was on the news and they're going to go and do this ritual thing, like 70 people showed up because they're all going to take out this evil demon vampire fucking satanic cultists, and it became like a shit show. But during it, like the occult people like tried to do their summoning thing, but because it was like they could only do half of it, they couldn't quite do the whole thing. But the guy David Farrant was like, oh, but that should be good enough, he won't bother anybody, but he's not all the way gone, But the Sean Manchester said that he actually like met this weeping lady that led him into a crypt, and then he noticed that there's an extra sarcophagus in this crypt. They looked new and untouched.
Huh.
So he punched through it.
Oh, shit.
And then ended up staking the vampire and saving the day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure glad I called that guy.
Right. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because the weeping lady, and it's kind of the same thing. And yeah, the cemetery is like, if you Google it, it's like really windy with all these mausoleums and statues, and it's like a perfect place to just feel creepy in.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Even if it was broad daylight and you're the only one in there, I'm sure it'd feel really creepy, like somebody's watching you. And yeah, and then the whole satanic panic thing that happened, and all these people coming and drinking beer, and the cops had to show up because there was a bunch of drunk people just going through the cemetery,
trying to fight a vampire.
Yeah, with like torches and crucifixes and stuff,
pitchforks,
probably. Yeah.
The last one I got here, and it's the same with the Weeping Lady and the Lover's Leap, the Black Angel.
Is this Iowa City?
It is Iowa City, which is maybe where it started. I always heard that there was one in the Moline Cemetery. I don't know if anybody out there has heard of like a Black Angel story in their cemetery, but this one was from Iowa City, Oakland Cemetery. The cemetery was founded in 1841, and the 8.5-foot tall Angel Monument marks the final resting place of Teresa Del Sol Veldevert and her son Eddie. Her son died of meningitis at the age of 18 and was buried in Oakland Cemetery in 1891. His mother contracted cancer in 1924 and then passed away from that and was buried next to him. Originally, the statue was bronze, but strangely, the angel started to turn black. And experts claim that the natural oxidization of the metal is why it turned black. Science, who knew?
But doesn't it turn green?
I think that's copper.
But
bronze is a metal of copper.
Yeah, because I thought like the Statue of Liberty is bronze, but it's green because of the oxidation.
I think you might be right about that.
Yeah.
But other people claim that it's black due to like evil forces, and they talk everything from like, oh, the statue turned black from the eyes out when Teresa was doing witchcraft.
She's a witch.
And then they have other things that like possibly Teresa murdered her own son and then took her own life years later. Also, even like the shape of the statue, it's like kind of facing downward as opposed to up toward the heavens. And then it's also said that it potentially got struck by a lightning bolt on the day that Teresa was buried, turning it black.
That's still pretty spooky.
Yeah, really. Something getting hit by lightning, you're not wrong. Yeah. Also, why you put a big piece of metal up there?
Right, but I mean, the day you bury her, and then that night it gets hit by lightning.
And it's said that if you touch the angel, you will die within a few years. If you kiss the angel, you'll die within 6 months.
Oh.
So don't be making love to no statue angels.
No. So that's not like the Doctor Who one where if you break eye contact, it'll get you?
Oh, the SP-170 or whatever?
Kind of like that, yeah. But there's also a Doctor Who thing where I think they're called weeping angels.
Oh, okay.
Where, if you break eye contact, they'll get you.
That makes me think of a spooky portrait of one of my old long-lost relatives.
Yeah, where the eyes follow you.
Yeah.
I have one from Monmouth, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
It seems like all the spookiest places are in Illinois.
In Illinois, who'd have thunk?
Yeah. And this is the Sugar Grove Cemetery, Sugar Tree Grove Cemetery, because I guess that's the trees they have around there in a grove. This place wasn't a Native American burial ground to begin with. It was actually where they grew their crops, And then the settlers were like, well, we're just going to build a church right here and then start burying people. And
actually, all this fertile ground, we're actually going to use this to not grow plants.
yeah, and then the old church isn't there anymore. There's a new one like down the road from the cemetery, but the cemetery is still there. And there was a guy who was kind of famous, but his name was William Martin, and he was the last white man in Warren County to be killed by the Sac and Fox Indians during the Black Hawk War. And the story is that he got inebriated, and everybody was like, don't go outside at night alone because there's this Indian war going out and they don't really like the white people too much. And he was just like, nah, I can make it home. And then ended up getting surrounded by 5 Indians who shot and scalped him. And so the townspeople retaliated by just running out and finding the first Native American they could and killing him. And it's said that they either just like went out and shot him, and or they also say that they brought him back to the cemetery and then hung him, and then they buried him in the cemetery. Well, like they put him on trial and then hung him, not like lynched him. But there's also parts that seem like the guy just got lynched. But then they weren't even sure that he was one of the 5 Indians that killed the William. And they stuck him in the cemetery, and his headstone says, Illinois Indian. He too is a son of Abraham. So he's
Fucking
like
white people,
pretty much like in an unmarked grave. And if you go to the cemetery now, like any flat space on the headstone, it just has pennies all over it. And I think this is in
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, but in my brain, because I've been out there, and you leave like the main road, like the paved road, and you actually drive between a couple of cornfields.
Okay.
Down like just this grass path. It's not even like a dirt road. And then you take a right, so then you're like behind a hill, so you're out in the middle of nowhere. And then it is like wrought ironed off. And from where the main gate is to where this Indian is buried is off in the like far, it's like the east corner, but it's the farthest part from the gate that you can get. And so I think is what your teenagers do is you go out there and you dare your friend to go out there and put a penny on it by himself.
Spooky.
Yeah. And
I'd just toss that bitch into the woods.
You would just come back. Yeah. And the claims of activity are hearing chanting, drums or tom-toms, wind chimes, cool breeze that'll follow you through the cemetery, a sense of being watched or followed, and then after night it just feels negative, like a bunch of negativity.
Ooh.
And I went there the first time with my daughter and one of her friends, and I didn't really know what I was looking for, because it just said an unmarked grave, but obviously it's marked. It's just so I was looking for something that had nothing on it, just like a marker. And
just like stacks of 600 pennies on it.
Yeah, but I didn't know about the penny thing either until I came back the second time. But I just got like, have you ever been to like Colorado?
Yes.
Have you ever had like altitude sickness, or like how your head kind of feels like wah wah wah?
Yeah, I've had it to where like you're going up and down driving, and then it gets kind of a little airy,
a little motion sicknessy feeling. I started to feel that while we were there. And I was also like looking around to find this grave, but I was also like, it did feel like we weren't alone.
Weird.
And
who'd you go with the second time?
My old lady.
Okay.
And then, but then the cemetery itself, you know how you walk on like molehills? Oh yeah. How the earth is kind of like smushy. The whole thing was like that.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't raining. It hadn't rained. So, and then I just started to get a real weird vibe after having the weird wonky head and then the mushy ground, and then I'm
That's bad vibes, bad juju.
Yeah, and I was like, did I just bring my daughter and her friend, because they were like 10 at the time. I'm like into some actual haunted place. Like, so I was like, we're just gonna go. And then once I got past the gate and closed it, I'm like, okay, now I feel fine. But I'm still like, I'm not going back in there. And we were taking pictures at different spooky places, so I like made him stand by the gate and take the picture. I'm like, we're good. Like, but then when I went back with my old lady, it wasn't as bad. Mm-hmm. It's still, I felt a little uncomfortable and like you're being watched, but it's also could be because you're in the middle of nowhere, and we went in the fall, so all the corn's cut down, so you just have open space.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of there.
Yeah, it's even like when I was camping at Loud Thunder over the past weekend, it's a popular campsite. There weren't a ton of people there, but like there's areas where there's like nobody around.
Yeah.
And it's just like, boy, anything could happen right now.
Right. Yeah. But we actually found the grave that time, and instead of leaving a penny, because we were dating, well, yeah, we were dating at the time, she decided to take a penny, trying to show off or something. Yeah, and like she had it in her closet for the longest time. Like, and then yesterday or the other day, I was like, "Do you still have that Indian penny?" She's like, "If I do, it's in my jewelry box." I'm like, "Great, I sleep right next to that thing."
Like, you're the closest human to it,
right? And it just, yeah, and now you're like, "No, turn your pockets inside out so you don't carry ghosts home." Like,
literally carrying ghosts home.
But if we did, I think maybe he's at the farmhouse we had, because that place had some vibes to it.
Okay,
this place doesn't, and I also don't invite the vibes in.
Yeah,
you know, because
that's a lot of it.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, because you know, if you're like sitting on the edge of your bed and the hallway's dark and you start thinking weird stuff, then you're just gonna have, you know, you're gonna have those bad vibes and those weird feelings in your house.
Yeah.
But if you're like, this is fine, it's the same stuff that's out there during the day.
Be the good energy that you want.
Yeah. So
that's a spooky one, Dave.
That is a spooky one. Yeah, I think that's about all I have. Do you have any other more spooky cemeteries?
No, not spooky cemeteries. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you made it this far, and I'll post it, or Dave is really good at posting.
Yeah.
Future Dave, when you listen to this, post Follyland Episode 3, Spooktacular Rama. I don't know if you've watched any of those. I've tried to pimp them a few times.
Follyland?
Yeah. It's a little 3 episode series of a sideshow that me and the wife kind of have met a few times. And they're like great, well-produced little shows that they made during COVID.
Yeah.
And the Spooktacular Rama is fantastic.
Oh, okay.
So, highly suggest that. We'll get it up in the Facebook group. Just Google in Facebook, Blue Ribbon Lounge Podcast.
Yeah.
Link in the show notes below, because we're super profesh. And thanks for listening so much.
Yeah, and since we're pimping out people we know, if you want to hear more about that Highgate Cemetery fiasco, go over to the Paranatural podcast, because they did a whole like an hour on it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I mean, there's fun stuff in there.
Yeah, check out your Pair of Naturals podcast, and your local haunted houses and all that stuff. And most of all, enjoy the spooky season. Be good to yourselves.
Yes, and remember, don't blow your pumpkins out on Halloween.